In the name of God, they crossed continents driven by faith, they clashed on sacred lands. Warriors, kings, and peasants united under the banner of the cross. This is the story of the Crusades, a series of epic battles that reshaped the world forever. To understand the Crusades, we must first journey back to a time before swords clashed in the Holy Land. In the early 11th century, the world was a place of complex religious and political landscapes. The Middle East was dominated by the powerful Seljuk Turks, who had recently converted to Islam. Their rapid expansion threatened both the Byzantine Empire and the Christian pilgrims who traveled to Jerusalem, the Holy City. Meanwhile, Europe was a patchwork of feudal kingdoms, each ruled by its own lord or king, and the papacy in Rome held immense spiritual influence over these realms. The Byzantine Empire, centered in Constantinople, was the last remnant of the Roman Empire. By the late 11th century, it was struggling against the advancing Seljuks, who had captured much of Anatolia. This threat to Christian lands, combined with the increasing difficulty of pilgrimage to Jerusalem, set the stage for what would become one of the most significant religious conflicts in history. The year was 1095. Pope Urban II, standing before a crowd at the Council of Clermont, made a passionate plea. He called upon the warriors of Christendom to take up arms and reclaim the Holy Land from the Muslims. His speech ignited a fervor across Europe. The response was overwhelming. Tens of thousands of knights, along with commoners, embarked on a journey to the east. This marked the beginning of the First Crusade. These crusaders were motivated by a mix of religious devotion, the promise of wealth and land, and a desire for adventure. Their journey was perilous. They faced starvation, disease, and hostile territory. Yet, in 1099, after a brutal siege, they captured Jerusalem. The victory was marred by the massacre of its Muslim and Jewish inhabitants, a dark chapter in the history of the Crusades. The First Crusade ended with the establishment of several Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem. These states would become the focus of both admiration and envy, as well as targets for future conflicts. The Crusader states, though small, were strategically important. They were outposts of Western Christendom in the heart of the Muslim world, surrounded by hostile territories. The Crusaders built formidable castles and fortified cities to defend their new lands. However, the presence of these states was a constant provocation to the Muslim world. In the decades following the First Crusade, Muslim leaders began to unite against the Crusaders. Among them, one name stands out: Salah al-Din, known in the West as Saladin. Saladin, a Kurdish leader, rose to power in Egypt and forged a powerful Muslim coalition. In 1187, he achieved a monumental victory at the Battle of Hattin, where he decisively defeated the Crusader forces. Jerusalem fell to Saladin's forces later that year, marking a turning point in the Crusades. The Third Crusade is one of the most famous and romanticized of all the Crusades, largely due to the larger-than-life figures involved. Leading the charge was Richard the Lionheart, King of England, who became a legendary figure in both history and myth. Richard's opponent, Saladin, was equally legendary, a skilled tactician and a chivalrous leader admired even by his enemies. The Third Crusade saw several epic battles, including the Siege of Acre and the Battle of Arsif. Despite his victories, Richard failed to recapture Jerusalem. In 1192, he and Saladin agreed to a truce. The agreement allowed Christian pilgrims access to the Holy City, while Jerusalem remained under Muslim control. Though the Third Crusade ended without a clear victory, it cemented the legends of both Richard and Saladin. The years following the Third Crusade saw a series of less successful campaigns. The Fourth Crusade, launched in 1202, ended in disaster when Crusaders, diverted by political intrigue, sacked Constantinople instead of marching to the Holy Land. This betrayal weakened the Byzantine Empire and deepened the schism between the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. The Crusader states continued to exist, but they were increasingly isolated and vulnerable. The Muslim world, now united under powerful dynasties like the Ayyubids and Mamluks, steadily pushed the Crusaders back. In 1291, the last Crusader stronghold, the city of Acre, fell to the Mamluks. This marked the end of the Crusader presence in the Holy Land. The Crusades were over, but their impact on the world was profound and lasting. For centuries, these conflicts shaped relations between the Christian and Muslim worlds. They also had significant consequences for Europe and the Middle East. The Crusades helped to open up new trade routes between East and West, leading to the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies. They also contributed to the rise of powerful monarchies in Europe and the eventual decline of the feudal system. The cultural and intellectual exchanges that occurred during this period would later fuel the Renaissance. However, the Crusades also left a legacy of bitterness and mistrust. The violence and atrocities committed during these wars sowed the seeds of enmity that would persist for centuries. Today, the Crusades are remembered in various ways. For some, they are a symbol of religious fervor and sacrifice. For others, they are a reminder of the dangers of fanaticism and the tragic consequences of conflict. As we reflect on this complex and turbulent period, it's important to remember that the Crusades were not just a clash of swords, but also a clash of cultures, beliefs, and aspirations. They remind us of the power of faith and the price of war. The story of the Crusades is a story of humanity at its best and worst, a tale of courage, conviction, and conflict that continues to resonate through the ages. If you found this exploration of the Crusades fascinating, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think was the most significant impact of the Crusades? And as always, thank you for watching.